Our lead story tonight is the impeachment hearings that begin Wednesday. Now it centers on the whistleblower again, as the Republican Party basically is saying, look, if you don't put the whistleblower up for a public Q&A, then the Senate isn't even going to consider what the House does. All right, this comes from Senator Lindsey Graham, who was very powerful in the Senate, very close to Mitch McConnell. Roll the tape.
It's impossible to bring this case forward, in my view, fairly, without us knowing who the whistleblower is and having a chance to cross-examine them about any biases that they may have. So if they don't call the whistleblower in the House, this thing is dead on arrival in the Senate.
That's a very powerful statement, and it's true. So actually, for President Trump, Adam Schiff not agreeing to call the whistleblower, even in a private setting, is good for him, because the Republicans in the Senate will never vote to remove the president unless that whistleblower appears. The other guy that was subpoenaed, or that the GOP wants, is Hunter Biden. And Schiff says no to Hunter Biden. So what's happening here, so you know, yes, there will be impeachment hearings on Wednesday. They will be televised. I'll, on Thursday, give you what I believe happened there. But this is going nowhere. This is just a dog and pony show unless that whistleblower comes out. Hunter Biden didn't get away with, not the whistleblower. Now, we have named him here, as you know, 33-year-old Eric Ciaramella, CIA employee, deep ties to the Democrat Party. And we reported that extensively. I'll just go over quickly. He brought his concerns, I think that's a fair word, to Adam Schiff in the House before he filed any whistleblower motion. Mr. Schiff and he had conversations. Then the whistleblower stuff was put forth. In the meantime, we find out that Mr. Ciaramella has a very long, extensive experience with Joe Biden and other Democrats, and that he is a never-Trumper. Okay. So that's who he is, and the reason that I reported it, and others did as well, not just me, is because I know you, the American public, are very interested in this story and want the truth. This is a sad story in San Francisco. I want to just explain that San Francisco was one of my favorite cities in the world. My father spent some time there getting ready to ship out to the Pacific during World War II. I've been there scores of times. It is a beautiful city, cultural, great restaurants, good sports teams, really like the Bay Area, okay? Now, the city is a wreck. It is ruined. And the only people to blame are San Franciscans themselves. They have done it. Not the loons they elected, you guys who vote for these loons. So the latest is a man named Chesa Boudin is the new district attorney for San Francisco. This is a nut. All right? He is not qualified to do anything. 39 years old, the son of radical leftists who both were imprisoned for killing a police officer. All right? His parents are David Gilbert and Kathy Boudin, members of the Weather Underground in the 60s. Kathy Boudin was paroled after spending 22 years in prison. She went on to teach at Columbia University, of course. Gilbert is still in prison, 25 years to life. All right? Now, Chesa was raised by Bill Ayers and Bernadette Dorn, other Weather Underground people. You remember Bill Ayers and Barack Obama were friends. Well, Chesa Boudin was raised by them because both his parents were in jail for murder. Okay? Now, he has been a public defender, and we need public defenders, but he is a radical leftist. And so he wins the election just slightly. He was running as another very liberal person, but he just slightly won. But he says no more cash bail, no more prison for people of color especially, unless they're violent. So what he's essentially doing is creating even more anarchy in San Francisco. Now, if you live in San Francisco, you pay some of the highest housing costs in the country. Right now, anybody can live on your front yard, on your doorstep. They can live there. They can go to the bathroom there. They can shoot up drugs there. It doesn't matter whether you have children, a dog, whatever. They can do whatever they want, and the police will not stop them because it's not against the law, according to the district attorney of San Francisco. Okay, next tweet. 105, Ambassador Taylor dodges questions about U.S. Justice Department investigating 2016 election corruption, possibly involving Ukraine. He looked weak. Now the soundbite that proves that. Go.
Well, Attorney General Barr in May of 2019 tasked the U.S. Attorney for Connecticut, John Durham, to broadly examine the government's collection of intelligence involving the president's campaign. That effort initially was an administrative review, has turned into a criminal probe, and U.S. Attorney Durham is casting a wide net and is following the facts where they may lead. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware that there is an investigation. That's as much as I'm aware.
And so to the extent any information resides in Ukraine, it's perfectly appropriate for the Ukrainians to try to get to the bottom of that, for the Ukrainians to cooperate with the United States through official channels to share that information, correct?
Ms. Kessler, can you say that one again? I'd appreciate it if you would restate the question.
Oh, that's just bull. He understood the question perfectly. He just didn't know how to answer it. The question is very clear. Is it appropriate for a U.S. official, in this case a president, to want cooperation from Ukraine in a corruption investigation? He knew exactly. So when he did that, when Taylor did that, I lost a lot of respect for Taylor, I have to say, because he's playing games. Now, I only looked at a little of the media analysis, and Chris Wallace, who I respect generally, he said that Taylor's testimony was damaging to President Trump. No, it wasn't. There's no way it could be interpreted as being damaged. In fact, the whole thing was a fiasco. This is a fiasco today. There's no way on earth the Senate is ever going to convict Donald Trump and remove him from office. And that's where they got it? That's your lead? That's your lead? That? Today? I don't even know if the House Democrats are going to vote on it now. That's how weak that was. I wouldn't be surprised if they just said, oh, maybe we won't even do this. Because the senators in the Senate, the Republican senators, basically said, we're not even going to watch. We're not even going to watch. We already know that this is a fiasco. And it was. It was a true fiasco. So the day after the impeachment hearing on TV is nothing. There's nothing. I listened to the CBS radio news in the morning, and their headline was, somebody overheard a phone call where President Trump said he wants corruption investigated more than help Ukraine. That was their lead on the CBS national radio broadcast. And I went back to sleep. It's like, so what? Number one, it's an opinion. Somebody heard something. Who was that person who heard it, by the way? It's like, is this it? That's all? And that's all. There's no headline here. There's nothing I can tell you about. It's all bull. And so you haven't heard a lot from Donald Trump. I mean, usually he'd be jumping up and down, but he's, I think, saying, and his advisors certainly are saying, don't say anything. They're killing themselves. All right, let them just die. So there was reaction. I'm not going to play you a lot of it because it's stupid. And I was watching the Islander hockey game last night rather than cable news. With all due respect, I just can't sit there knowing I'm being lied to. All right? And I'll explain that a little bit further later. So the first soundbite is from Dan Rather, who has come out as a far-left guy. Go.
We have a president who, on the record, already proven, puts his own self-interest, his political and commercial interests ahead of the interests of the country. And that leaves us in really roiling, uncharted waters.
That's totally absurd. I mean, we've had a lot of presidents who put their own self-interest ahead of public policy. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Rather doesn't know. Look, he lost it on the Bush thing when he tried to convince the nation that George W. Bush dodged the draft, and then he used a phony document. That was the end. And you can come back from a mistake like that. I don't know if Rather knew it was phony. He had producers and all that. But, look, if you're going to say to the American people that all of our presidents have not been self-interested and not put themselves ahead of policy, then that's just ridiculous. It's absurd.